the best place to start is what is a trickster, right? I mean, you've already done a little bit of reading. So, with that in mind, trickster is the rule breaker, where hero sets up the rules or upholds the rules and the laws. Trickster questions them and usually breaks them. And he or she does this for a specific purpose because rules don't last, really. They outlive their purpose often. And so the role of the trickster in the story is to really make us think about the framework of our society, the things that we value, and why they're there. So all of our taboos and mores and social conventions and traditions are being challenged by this figure in story, so that we can continue to grow and evolve. So I mean that's a broad, okay. So that's the function. So how does Trickster do this? Well, Trickster does this by being usually pretty obscene and offensive and rude and crude and awful. Specifically, Trickster stories tend to involve feces, poo, poo, urine. Monkeys are tricksters in story, and one of the reasons is because monkeys throw their poo, right? And that's just, high good fun when a monkey starts throwing its poo. So what you end up with in story is a mythic or fairy tale or folkloric or whatever figure who doesn't respect that waste is supposed to be kept far away, challenges that, and so the trickster won't just, poo in his or her hand and then throw it. He'll actually, smear it all over himself and come chasing you. And some tricksters will live in houses made of poo, and and we'll even eat it. So I know that's disgusting, but that's Trickster. Trickster is disgusting. The reason Trickster is disgusting is because in order to really understand what it is that we value, we have to examine what it is that we abhor in our culture and society. And so yeah, we usually waste products, right? Death too. In my death class, we have quite a few tricksters that we encounter, because trickster stories go hand in hand with death myths. In order to understand death, it often takes a trickster to come along and point at stuff, right? And challenge it. Why do we do this? Why do we do that, right? Well, that's trickster's job. So, there's other stuff too, like, nowadays we have this thing about, porn is bad, right? Porn is horrible and everything. I'm not suggesting it's, it should be mainstream, you don't want to see, copulating people on the back of the bus stop bench, but trickster stories are sort of like that, okay? So what Trickster will do is he or she will often have sex in public. If it's a male trickster, and most of them are, he'll go chasing after women, and he will, flash his genitals and grab his genitals, and he will grab females' genitals. Kokopelli is a lower level trickster. He doesn't have a lot of stories around him, but Kokopelli, he's the flute player, right? And you see him, and he has like kind of the mohawk and then the flute, and it's always a sideways, right? And he's really neat. And when you go to like Sedona or these places, they have these really cool Kokopelli, and everybody's, he's a trickster, he's great, he's wonderful, he's a musician. And musicians, I know a lot of musicians, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm really spiritual, I love Kokopelli. And I say, you understand that the flute he's playing is his penis? And they say, what? And I say, yes. He is actually performing oral sex on himself, and that's what that represents. And when he plays the flute, it is a metaphor for masturbating, but specifically performing oral sex on himself. And the thing about the Kokopelli stories is that he's a fertility god because he's holding his penis in his hand and it's huge and he's little, right? And so what he would do is touch females in these stories or play his flute for them and they would become impregnated. So yeah, kind of changes, you know, when you see the Kokopelli hanging from someone's rearview mirror, now you're going to go, you know, that flute is actually his penis. But these are trickster stories. Wakunjunka, and I'm trying to say it as right as I can, but this is one of the tricksters. He is up in the northwest, I believe. But he's the one that Paul Radin did all of his work on, and that Carl Jung refers to when he talks about the Native American trickster. Carl Jung didn't really know a lot about any other Native American tricksters, but no, that's not totally fair. But I mean, that is the one, the Paul Radin trickster, Wakunjunga. And that trickster often will take his penis off, and neat trick, right? And he will carry it around in a little bag on his back. So he has a little backpack with his penis inside. And so there's all these stories where he loses his backpack with his penis in it. And sometimes he will be masturbating so much that his penis will just fall off. And so there's these stories about, you know, how ridiculous he is, right? Coyote is another trickster a lot of people out here are familiar with. Coyote is not specifically related to like Shoshone and Hopi and the other, you know, some of the other Pueblo Indians and then the northwestern North American. But I mean, in any of the desert regions, you're going to have coyote. And coyote doesn't play with his feces and he doesn't play with his penis. He's not like that. But he has this huge appetite. So he's always eating. And that's the thing about tricksters. They have these enormous appetites. They're very selfish and self-centered. And they have these enormous appetites. Now, the difference between the Native American, the northwestern, South Central American tricksters, and then the European tricksters is that often our tricksters over here on our continent tend to be culture heroes. Not all of them, but they tend to be. And then the European tricksters aren't always culture heroes. So, but ours tend to be culture heroes. We kind of like our tricksters out here. I mean, they sort of embody the American ideal, where we're gonna, push the rules and push the buttons and force the situation by challenging it constantly. We like that. That's our American ideology. That's what we think of as ourselves. So we really like our tricksters. And there tend to be more female tricksters over here anyway. A lot of the native mythos have some kind of a female trickster. But there are other female tricksters. There's Balbo, she's the Greek trickster, and then there's Ami no Uzumi, and I think I'm saying it wrong, but she's the one that the sister she's the sun goddess, and she locks herself in the cave, and she's the sister of the moon god, and he's very upset and he's sad and he misses his sister, and it's really interesting because he doesn't know what to do. He's distraught, and there's no daylight because his sister is the sun queen, the goddess, and so she's locked herself in a cave because she's mad at him and everything. And so he calls Ami no Uzumi and says, and I want to check that, but I'm pretty sure that's her name. And he says, you please help me come, get my sister out. And so she does a dance, and it's very similar to the Greek Balbo, and they didn't interact, those two cultures, at all. So that's kind of neat and kind of goes along with Carl Jung's idea of archetypes, right? But yeah, so she does a really crude and, offensive dance. It's very sexual. It's everything except the pole, right? But it's basically a pole dance. And at the end, with the sister, the sun goddess, looking out a little hole at the opening of the cave, Ami no Uzumi flashes her female genitalia, and that's what really makes her a trickster. And at some point in one of the stories, she actually pees on herself too. And the sun goddess thinks this is so hilarious because women don't behave like this, that she comes out of her cave and then the sun comes out again, and she forgives her brother, and they're reunited and the world functions again as